So I wanted to bring you to some of the interesting places around Fort Walton Beach. Right now we're at the Boardwalk, which is a public beach access here in Fort Walton Beach. It's very popular with spring breakers and of course summer vacationers. You can hear in the background there's some music from one of the public access points right next door to us where they're playing music for the people out there on the beach. But what we're gonna do today, I'm gonna take you inside Al's Beach Club. We're gonna go grab a beer and talk about a hand history. So I just popped inside Al's Beach Bar to grab a beer and come out here on the boardwalk to have the beach in the background behind me while I set up this hand. So I'm going to take you back to a multi-table tournament that I recently played at the Pensacola Greyhound Track and Poker Room, and it was a multi-flight day one, and then all of the players came back on the second day for continuation. So 3 day ones on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then all of the remaining players from each day came back on Sunday for the final day. And I was actually out there on business and popped in after I got some work done to go over and play this tournament on a Thursday. So I was there for the first day one flight. It was about an hour and 25-hour, 30-minute drive for me to get over there. So I figured while I was in town, I might as well get at some poker while I was over there. We started the tournament with 10,000 in chips, and the first level was 25-50 blinds. So it was a pretty good structure. We played mostly 30-minute levels for the first about 4 to 5 hours, and then it went to 45-minute levels, and then it went to 1 hour level. So it was a pretty good structure overall for a $180 entry for the tournament. So I started with 10,000 in chips, 25-50 level, and I did pretty well. By level 5, I had chipped up pretty good. I was over 30,000, around 32.5, when this hand came up.
We were 7-handed in level 5 with a 50 ante and 200-400 blinds. I was in the big blind. Under the gun limps, UTG +1 folds, hijack folds, cutoff folds, the button limps, small blind completes, and the action is on me in the big blind. With 3 limps in front of me, I look down at King-Queen offsuit. If it were suited, I might check and take a flop, hoping to dominate some limped hand that won't call a raise, but I don't want to play this hand out of position unsuited against this many players. So I decide to raise, and I'm happy to take down the pot right here. It's $19.50 with all the money in, so I choose to raise to 2,000, making it 1,600 more. The UTG limper hesitates for a moment, and then grabs his stack and moves all in for 11,900. It folds back to me, and it's 9,900 more to call to win a pot of 15,050. UTG is an older guy in his 60s. He late regged this tournament, and when he sat down, he commented immediately on how tough the table was because he knew everyone at the table except me, the big stack. So I know he's a regular. My read was that he was strong based on the way he moved his chips into the middle. But what would he limp re-raise from under the gun? I thought he would mostly open raise with aces, kings, and queens, so maybe he would limp re-raise with a small percentage of these combos. While the best I could hope for is that we were flipping and I definitely had the pot odds to call if he had jack, jack, or less, I was mostly worried about him showing up with ace, king, or ace, queen and having me dominated for a big pot. If I call and lose, I would be down to about 20k in chips. If I call and win, I would be over 45k in chips. If I fold, I would still have over 30k in chips. In the moment, I made the low variance decision and folded, and my biggest thought was, I do not want to lose 1/3 of my chips in this situation. Once I was able to think about it afterward, the decision may be right or wrong, I'm still not quite sure, but I think my in-the-moment thought process was flawed. I was thinking about it in terms of absolute chip count, like I would a cash game. But I think a better thought process is to think about it in terms of number of big blinds. If I call and lose, I would be down to about 50 big blinds. If I call and win, I would be over 112 big blinds. If I fold, I would be about 75 big blinds. I'm a recreational player, I'm not a tournament expert, but I think a 50 big blind stack and 75 big blind stack play fairly similar to each other. But the opportunity to build a 110 big blind stack early in a tournament might be worth the risk of falling to 50 big blinds in level 5. Maybe it's worth a call. I'm not sure. Just a thought. What do you think about the comparable playability of 50 big blinds, 75 big blinds, or 110 big blind plus when you are far from the money, when it's really early in the tournament? Like I said, we're talking level 5. What would you have done if you were me? Comment below, let me know. By the way, after I folded, he mucked face up, so I know what he had, and I'll let you know on next week's video. Now, I've got a second hand to discuss from the same tournament, and it's a much easier spot, but it is still interesting. It's announced as the last hand of the day. This is the first day 1 event, so we don't know when the money will start or how many players will be in the money at this point. 6-handed, level 10, 300 ante, 1,000, 2,000 blinds. I'm on the button. UTG folds, UTG plus 1 folds, cutoff moves all in for 25,000. I'm on the button with 96,300 in chips. The action's on me. I look down at pocket 10s. Small blind has 46,000. Big blind has 123,000 plus. It's only 12.5 big blinds, and 10s are ahead of the cutoff shove range. The major concern is that the big blind has me covered, and it could be disastrous if he shows up with a hand. I thought momentarily about folding because it was the last hand of day 1, and I could easily fold and go into day 2 with a guaranteed 96k stack, where if we came back at the 2,000 big blind level, I would have 48 big blinds, and if we come in at the 3,000 big blind level, I'd have around 32 big blinds. Should I even be concerned about the big blind and his 123k stack in this spot? I'm not really sure. With the big blind left to act behind me, I debated mentally on whether I should call and fold to a big blind shove because he played pretty straightforward, or if I should move all in myself to isolate. What do you think? What would you have done if you were me? Hit the comments down below, let me know what your thoughts are. As played, I moved all in. Both the small blind and big blind folded, and the cutoff had ace-king offsuit, and spiked an ace on the flop. I still made it to day 2 with 71,000 chips. It was okay. For those of you that like results, there were 200 players in the tournament, the top 20 paid, and 20 of us came back on day 2, so we were all in the money. On my last hand, we were 6-handed at the second table. There were 3 limps in front of me. I moved all in from the big blind for 15 bigs with king-king, and the UTG limper feigned a weak call with ace-ace to bust me in 11th on the final table bubble.
So what's the big takeaway from these two hands? Well, the situational dynamics in tournament poker are critical to your decision process, because if you look at the first hand, we're talking about a 10,000 unit situation where I folded versus a 25,000 unit situation in the second hand where I easily called. And the biggest difference is the ratio of big blinds to how big the bet was. In the first situation, we're looking at a limp 3-bet all in for an additional 25 big blinds versus the second situation where it was a 12.5 big blind open shove from the cutoff. And the cutoff should be open shoving a lot of hands, so his range is going to be much wider than the undergun limp reshove all in. So when you're thinking about decisions in a poker tournament, it's often beneficial to think about it in number of big blinds as opposed to the absolute chip count that you're facing. Enjoy the videos. I hope we both learned something along the way.